back to the Barkha channel. Day 45. I hope we're able to bear these storms because we've learned to sail our ships. I know it's been a rather long haul, but thankfully, some of us are blessed because of the resources that we enjoy. We are able to put food on the table, we have house help to help us with our chores, 24/7 electricity to help us cool down in these rather hot days, and of course, an internet connection, which keeps us in touch with the world and of course, also allows us to be entertained. But there is another blessing, and I think none of us have paid too much attention to that. What is that? The fact that we have people to live with. Our spouses, our families, our children, our parents, our grandparents, our partners. All these cohabitors, as we call them, is a blessing. I say that because in my last episode of Coping with COVID, I spoke about aspects of loneliness and aloneness. If you recollect, I mentioned that lonely people are people who dislike themselves and because of these physically isolating days are confronted with their own being and with their own thoughts, and because they don't really like aspects of themselves, want to constantly run away from themselves and what their thoughts portray to them. So I also mentioned that we can also be lonely in a crowd. Then I spoke about aloneness, where aloneness is about self-care, self-loving, self-compassion, and self-liking. And I said that a lot of people in these physically isolating days are learning the art of being alone. The reason I mention this is because, unfortunately, with the lockdown prolonging and extending, there are a lot of us who don't have the fortune to be living with other members. We are pretty much stuck alone at home. And this singledom is causing detachment and disengagement. George Simmel, a German sociologist, mentioned that all humans thrive with interaction. In fact, he defined society as nothing but human beings interacting with each other. He termed a word called sociation, where he mentioned that sociation is nothing but individual phenomenon where intricate complex webs are created because of people engaging and socializing and interacting with each other. But for people who are now pretty much alone with themselves, even though they may be self-loving, self-accepting, and self-liking creatures, this prolonged physical isolation may take a toll on their mental health because their interactions and their engagements are merely virtual. In this episode of Coping with COVID, there are some aspects which I want us to enjoy in the times that we are cohabiting with each other. In fact, Abraham Maslow put the need for belongingness as one of the needs above physical security and safety. In fact, the need for belongingness is a cultural need. And if we can learn the art of caremongering, yes, you heard that right, caremongering with the people that you and me are now going to spend maybe some more days in this lockdown, it'll make those memories of our lockdown much more pleasurable, satisfying, and fulfilling. The last thing we want to remember this lockdown for is about the ill will and the unfortunate inabilities of not being able to get along with the people we love. So in today's episode, I want to teach the art of caremongering. Caremongering is nothing but a deliberate attempt to arouse love and care among the cohabitants that we are spending our time with. Two aspects that I thought which were very important was building trust. What do I mean by that? A lot of people in families have somehow not been able to get along rather well over these periods of previous years. Now, with the forced lockdown, day 45 as you remember, they are compelled to stay with each other. I do believe there are certain facets that will help them build trust. Number one, talking clearly to each other. If we engage with each other by clarifying what is it that we expect from the other It will make for a good base to build trust. It is important to be candid, and it is important to be straightforward. Besides that, I think clarifying expectations of what we want from the other will also build a solidity of trust that we are open, authentic, and honest in what we expect. Two, giving due regard or respect for every member that exists in the household. So, learning to give intrinsic value to that person and whatever he or she has is a very important way to also build a collaborative, cooperative atmosphere. Three, we all make mistakes. So let's learn to right our wrongs by actually apologizing for some of the errors that we may have made as we've been living day in and day out with each other. It is not so difficult to apologize and say sorry. And when you right that wrong, it makes for an environment where everyone's ready to accept themselves as imperfect people. Fourthly, keep commitments. Do not promise something which you don't want to do or which you will not be able to do. So, just reiterating, how do we build trust? By four things: talking straightforwardly about what to expect from each other, and clarifying what are the things that we will be able and not be able to do, and expect and not be able to expect from the other. Giving due regard and respect to the cohabitants who live with us and giving them their intrinsic value. Keeping commitments, talking and executing whatever you and I have promised will go a long way in also building a very collaborative and a cooperative atmosphere. And of course, righting wrongs, being able to apologize for the mistakes that one has made. The second aspect of cohabiting and making memories which are fond memories for these lockdown periods is something known as physical touch as an analgesic or a painkiller. The brain releases the hormone oxytocin when it feels the touch of another human being. Do use the cuddle hormone oxytocin to actually caress, hug, and stroke the people that you are cohabiting with. Luckily for us, we are not positive and we don't have the virus, and hopefully we will never get the virus. Why not use these opportunities to reduce pain, actual and imagined pain, by using gestures like stroking, calming, soothing, hugging, and cuddling the people that we are loving. So these two aspects of caremongering, building trust and using physicality to build sentiments and memories of fondness and joy in these difficult times of a lockdown, to me is one best way of living together beautifully, fulfillingly, and joyously. Stay well, stay safe. More importantly, stay home. Till next week, it's goodbye and thank you from the Varkha Chulani channel.